At 4:30 in the afternoon, somewhere in the northern Indian Ocean, between the southern tip of Sri Lanka and the coast of Sumatra, a radar operator on the USS Lewis B. Puller locks onto a contact, 330 meters in length, draft of 20 meters, speed 6 knots, course east-northeast, straight toward the Malacca Strait. Classification: very large crude carrier. Name on the hull: MT Tiffany. She has been hunted for more than a week, and in 43 minutes, she will never sail under her own power again. This is not a patrol. This is not a warning. This is a seizure, executed 3,000 miles outside the declared blockade zone. And it changes everything. Welcome to Battlefield Brief. Let's get into it. To understand why this operation matters, you need to understand the architecture of the Shadow Fleet, the global network of tankers that keeps sanctioned Iranian oil flowing to China. Here's the playbook. Tiffany loads crude at Karg Island on April 5th. She transits the Strait of Hormuz on April 9th, 4 days before the American naval blockade officially takes effect. On paper, she was clean, but she hasn't been clean for years. The scheme runs like clockwork. Cross the Indian Ocean, enter the Bay of Bengal, conduct a ship-to-ship transfer in the eastern outer port limits of Singapore, a patch of international water Tiffany has used for years to pump Iranian crude into cleaner vessels, rewrite the paperwork. Continue to China's Shandong province, where the buyers, small private refineries called teapots, are waiting for cheap, sanctioned oil. The Pentagon has tracked every step of this from orbit, and today, they're done watching. The USS Lewis B. Puller is not a standard warship. She's an expeditionary sea base, a floating special operations staging platform, long flat flight deck, 4 helicopter spots, a Marine Expeditionary Detachment trained for exactly this: visit, board, search, and seizure. The mission order comes in at 4:47 p.m. Preparation window, 43 minutes. Inside the hangar bays, the loadout begins. Full combat gear, tactical helmets, lightweight plate carriers, M4 carbines, live and less than lethal rounds in separate pouches. 2 MH-60 Nighthawks are already on the flight deck, rotors at idle. This is not the operation from Sunday, where USS Spruance put 3 5-inch rounds into the engine room of the Tuska after 6 hours of defiance. Tiffany's crew are merchant sailors. The goal is not to disable. The goal is to take control. 5:30 p.m. The first Nighthawk lifts off, nose down, leaning forward. 30 seconds later, the second. 16 nautical miles to the northeast.
Motor tanker Tiffany, this is United States Navy. You are a stateless sanctioned vessel. You are subject to the right of visit under international maritime law. Maintain your current course and speed. Prepare to be boarded. Copy.
5:46 p.m. 2 Nighthawks approach simultaneously from both sides. They hover at 30 meters. Marines fast rope onto the deck. 12 minutes later, it's over. Cargo manifest verified. 2 million barrels. Karg Island, April 5th. Signatures, seals, batch codes. Everything matches what intelligence tracked from orbit.
Boarding complete, no incident. Vessel under U.S. control.
But here is what no one is talking about. Tiffany was boarded under a single legal doctrine. She had no flag state. She was stateless. And under customary international law, any military vessel can board a stateless ship, anywhere in the world. That doctrine just became America's global warrant. Washington confirms in 30 minutes. Tiffany makes a sharp turn south. Not Sumatra, not Singapore. Diego Garcia, the joint US-UK military base in the British Indian Ocean Territory. Tehran's response comes within hours. The Iranian Foreign Ministry calls it maritime piracy and state terrorism. The ceasefire, they say, is in jeopardy. But here's the anomaly. The IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, the organization that usually races to make threats, says nothing. Complete silence. Because Tiffany flies a Botswana flag. To claim her publicly would mean officially admitting IRGC control of the Shadow Fleet. And that they will not do. Beijing, total silence. Because officially, China doesn't buy Iranian oil. But in Shanghai and Shenzhen, the oil traders read the signal perfectly. One tanker, one operation, and the risk model for the entire global shadow fleet, Russian, Iranian, Venezuelan, cracks. 3 scenarios now sit in front of the White House. The decision made in the next few days determines whether Tiffany was a one-off or the opening move of a global campaign. The Iranian delegation has still not confirmed whether it will attend the second round of Islamabad talks. The Tiffany seizure is one more weight on the scale tipping against negotiations. The IRGC's silence is the most important data point right now. It's not restraint, it's damage control. They are watching Washington's next move and recalculating. The question is not just what happens to 2 million barrels of crude and 14 sailors in the middle of the Indian Ocean. The question is whether Tiffany becomes a precedent that rewrites the rules of economic warfare on a global scale. The Tiffany seizure is not an isolated operation. It is a doctrine, a global warrant built on 4 words: stateless vessel, international law. Washington has demonstrated it is willing to reach anywhere in the Indian Ocean, or beyond, to enforce its economic pressure campaign against Iran. The Shadow Fleet's greatest advantage was invisibility. Today, that advantage is gone. The next 72 hours will tell us whether this is the opening move, or a warning shot that gets walked back at the negotiating table. I'll be watching. You should be too. If this briefing gave you something the mainstream missed, hit subscribe. Drop a comment. What's your scenario? De-escalation, Shadow Fleet collapse, or direct conflict? I read everyone. This is Battlefield Brief. Briefing complete.